Learning is the constant process and it should never stop, even in such testing times. Would like to thank you all for joining the session. Over the last week, we had 5 sessions on most important and tricky concepts of GST, which were explained by Mr. Gabawala himself. We have recorded those videos and have uploaded them on our YouTube channel. Those who have missed those sessions can go back on our YouTube channel and see those videos after this session. Over this week, we have planned sector-specific discussions, which will be taken up by the partners who specialize in these industries and day in and day out deal with clients of these sectors. The industry which we are going to discuss today is the hospitality industry. It really pains me to say that this industry is the worst impacted because of the current COVID-19 pandemic, with literally no operations at all, or in other words, this industry is entirely shut for the moment. Ideally, in normal conditions, this is the peak season for the industry with the summer vacation and the wedding season businesses. Nonetheless, we can only pray to God to keep us healthy, and soon this too shall pass. I'm sure together we'll all come stronger out of this. Without much ado, let's start with the session. And what I've done is I've divided my presentation into specific business streams or services which are provided by this industry. And thereafter, we'll be discussing the issues which are impacting those specific services of the industry. So to start with, we'll be first discussing the accommodation service, which is the major service provided by this industry. And before going to the issues, it is important to discuss the plethora of amendments which have been made in the rate entry of this particular service. So to start with, when GST initially came in, we had notification number 11 by 2017, central tax rate dated 28th of June 2017, wherein what they said was that if declared tariff of a particular room, say for example is between, hello, am I audible? Can someone confirm if I'm audible or not? Because I'm getting messages that, acha, okay, no audio, fine. So to start with, in accommodation service, the entry read is that if your declared tariff is between 1000 rupees to 2499 rupees, the applicable GST rate is 12%. If your declared tariff is between 2500 to 7499, the applicable GST rate was 18%. And if your declared tariff is above rupees 7500, then the applicable GST rate is 28%. Now, the important point to note over here is that entire benchmarking is on your declared tariff. There is no reference of any value of supply for determining your rate, for determining your GST rate for this particular service in the entire rate entry. And this was actually creating a lot of problem because declared tariff is a very primitive concept, and the entire industry has adopted to the value of supply concept practically. However, in this rate entry, they had considered the earlier practices of declared tariff only, and it was creating a lot of problems. So a lot of representations were made to the government by the industry. And then on 26th of July 2018, they came up with an amendment wide notification number 13 by 2018 central tax rate, which was made effective from 27th of July 2018, wherein this words declared tariff were substituted with the words value of supply. So on 27th of July 2018, the concept of declared tariff for accommodation service was done away with, and we had concept of value of supply in place. Thereafter, there were many representations from the industry saying that 28% is a very high rate for our service. Therefore, they requested to reduce the GST rate. So, wide notification number 20 by 2019 central tax rate dated 30th of September 2019, which was made with effect from 1st of October 2019, they amended the GST rates. And now technically we have only two slabs. One slab is to say that if your value of supply is between 1001 rupee to 7500 rupees, the applicable GST rate will be 12%. And if your value of supply is above rupees 7500, then your GST rate will be 18%. So these were the two amendments rather in the rate notification entry since the GST was brought in. Now we will take up some of the issues which are impacting the accommodation business of the industry. And as you can see in this slide, the first issue which we are going to discuss is, can a room be sold to guests for a value above declared tariff for that category of room? What are the implications if room is sold for a value above the declared tariff for that category of room? Now, please note that this particular issue is relevant only up to 26th of July 2018, that is during the declared tariff regime, which covers your financial year 17-18 and almost 4 months of financial year 18-19. Post amendment of value of supply from declared tariff, this issue does not prevail. So please keep this point in your mind as and when we discuss this particular issue. So basically the issue over here revolves around the fact as to what do you mean by declared tariff, and is it equivalent to the actual tariff which is realized from the customer? This is the issue which we need to consider. And to my mind, declared tariff is nothing but the tariff which is published anywhere, say on various websites through which business has been procured, or printed on a tariff card, or displayed at the reception, which is also known as rack rate. Therefore, if different tariff is declared at different places, highest of such declared tariff shall be the declared tariff for the purpose of levy of GST. Let us try to understand this with the help of an example. Say that a hotel has a declared tariff of 7500 rupees for the deluxe category of room. And it is published, the room is published on Make My Trip for say rupees 6000 rupees. And the same category of room is published on Clear Trip for say rupees 8000 rupees. Now in this case, the declared tariff for deluxe category of room stands revised to 8000 rupees from 7300 rupees, because it is the highest published rate amongst all the websites, and therefore the applicable GST rate for this particular category of room will be 28%. However, please note that the declared tariff is relevant only for determining your rate of tax. GST will be payable only on the value of room which you are able to charge to your customer. So basis declared tariff, you only identify the GST rate. GST amount has to be calculated on the value at which the room is sold to the customer. So to summarize, the declared tariff for deluxe category of room will be 8000 rupees, being highest published rate on the website, and therefore the applicable GST rate for the declared category of room will be 28%, and GST has to be charged on the actual amount, which in the example we took was rupees 6000. So 28% GST has to be paid on 6000 rupees. One piece of advice we would like to give you over here is that please maintain sufficient documents on your records to establish your declared tariff values for the relevant period, for the period when this concept of declared tariff prevailed for the accommodation service. Because if during assessment your assessing officer questions the value of declared tariff for a particular category of room, then we should be in position to establish the same. Otherwise, you know how the department officials work. They are very capable of alleging that unless otherwise proved, all your declared tariffs are above rupees 7500 rupees and pay us the highest rate of GST, even though you didn't sell a single room for more than 7500 rupees. So please bear this in mind, and please keep sufficient documents on record to establish your declared tariffs whenever it is being questioned. Also, why am I emphasizing so much on this point is because this issue is going to be there in most of the hotels, because practically in systems, everyone has mapped GST rates with the sale value, and therefore your computer calculates GST basis the sale value of the room from the tax table where the tax slabs are already predefined. this is going to be an issue only for a limited period. Please bear in mind that this issue is going to be there only for a limited period when this concept of declared tariff prevailed in the law. Post 27th of July 2018, this issue does not prevail. So this was with respect to the first issue. Let us go to the second issue, and the issue is what will be the GST rate if declared tariff on the date of stay is different from declared tariff on date of booking. Now in second issue also, please note that this issue is relevant only up to 26th of July 2018. That is during the declared tariff regime, which covers your financial year 17-18 and 4 months of your financial year 18-19. Post amendment of value of supply from declared tariff, this issue does not prevail. Like the first issue, the second issue is also relevant only for up to particular time period. But because we'll be going through the assessments for this limited time period, assessments are pending. Therefore, I thought that it is relevant to take this particular issues. So basically the issue in this question is that the declared tariff during the period when booking was made by the guest was say rupees 7,000 rupees. And the actual declared tariff during the period of stay of the guest was say rupees 12,000 rupees. Therefore, what will be the declared tariff for the tax calculation purposes? Because if we say that the declared tariff is 7,000 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 18%. And if we say that a declared tariff is 12,000 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 28%. Now, please note that this issue has already been clarified in one of the FAQs published by CBIC, and they have clearly mentioned that if declared tariff changes between booking and actual usage, declared tariff at the time of supply of service, that is the dates on which the guest is going to stay in the hotel, would prevail. Therefore, in the example which we took, declared tariff will be rupees 12,000 and applicable GST rate will be 28%. Now the issue is, if the hotel has already collected 18% GST from the customer and paid to the government, what about the differential 10%? The differential GST will have to be either borne by the hotel or has to be collected from the guest at the time of his checkout, depending on the booking terms and conditions. However, in this issue also, please note that the value of 12,000, declared tariff of 12,000 is relevant only for identifying your applicable GST rate. GST amount has to be calculated only on the value at which the room is being sold to your guest. Once again, I would like to mention, please note that these two issues, the first two issues which we discussed, are only for a limited time period, that is during the declared tariff regime up to 26th of July 2018. And we have already discussed this issues with you personally during our one-on-one interactions and meetings. Therefore, please do not panic. And if you still have any doubts or concerns, please feel free to reach out either to me or to Ronak at the time convenient to you after this session. This takes me to the third issue, and the issue is, can a hotel provide accommodation service to SEZ unit without charging IGST if they have LUT? What are the GST implications if hotel does not have LUT? Now the government has already clarified, issued a clarification for this issue, wide circular number 48/22/2018. I repeat, circular number 48/22 of 2018, which is dated 14th of June 2018, wherein they have clearly mentioned that a hotel can supply accommodation service to a SEZ unit without charging GST if it has LUT in place. If it does not have LUT, then hotel can charge IGST on the supplies of accommodation service made to the SEZ units. However, it is important that before not charging any GST to the SEZ unit or charging IGST to a SEZ client, we obtain sufficient documents for our record purposes which establish that the client is a legitimate SEZ unit and is granted appropriate SEZ licenses from government, which is valid as on the date of provision of service. So please ensure that you have obtained sufficient documents which will help us in establishing the fact that your client is a legitimate SEZ unit. And if your client is a SEZ unit, then yes, you can raise an invoice without charging any GST if you have LUT in place. If you don't have LUT, then you can charge IGST to that to your SEZ client. This takes me to the fourth issue. And the fourth issue is, can a hotel bifurcate accommodation component and food component from a plan sale, say CP plan, EP plan, American plan, MAP plans, and pay GST separately on accommodation service and restaurant service? Now, before answering this particular issue, let me quickly run you all through the concept of composite supply under GST. And the composite supply is defined in GST Act, and it has three important criterias. The first and foremost important criteria of composite supply is that there should be two or more taxable supplies. The second important criteria of a composite supply is that this services, that this supplies should be naturally bundled, in the ordinary course of business. And the third important criteria of a composite supply is that out of the two or more taxable supplies, one of them should be a principal supply. Therefore, for the plan sales, the concept of composite supply will prevail, as all the conditions as prescribed in the definition of composite supply are getting satisfied. Plan sale is a peculiar service. The first condition, that it should be naturally bundled, there should be two or more taxable supplies. So you are giving accommodation service as well as your food service. So therefore this first condition is getting satisfied. The second condition is that it should be naturally bundled and should be in the ordinary course of business. Now, plan sale is a very peculiar service which is offered by all the hotels across the globe, and therefore this second condition of naturally bundled along with the accommodation service is also getting satisfied. And the third condition is that one of them should be a principal supply. And in this case, the primary intention of the guest is to avail the accommodation service, along with which he is taking the food service as well. So therefore your principal supply will become your accommodation service will become your principal supply. Therefore all your plan sales are composite supply. Hence hotel cannot split plan sales into room and meal components. This is clearly a case of composite supply, with principal supply being accommodation service. Hence, say 15,000 rupees is collected from a guest for AP plan. Now AP plan includes your room as well as all your three meals, that is your breakfast, lunch and dinner. Then the applicable GST rate in this particular case will be 18% on the entire amount of 15,000 rupees and has to be paid under HSN code of accommodation service only. For plan sales, I repeat once again, you cannot split the value charged to your guest into food component and accommodation component. The entire value will be considered as a value for your accommodation service, and GST has to be paid under accommodation service only. So this was with respect to the fourth issue. This takes me to the next issue, where the question is how to determine GST rate for extra bed service. For example, sale value of room is rupees 7,000 and charges for extra bed is say rupees 1,000. Now in this case, how do you identify your GST rate? Now here also the concept of composite supply, as we discussed in the previous issue, the concept of composite supply will prevail here also, because accommodation service along with extra bed satisfies all the condition of composite supply. The first condition, both the services should be naturally bundled. These two services, accommodation and extra bed services, are naturally bundled. The second condition, are supplied in conjunction with each other. Now this extra bed service and accommodation service are also supplied in conjunction with each other. The third condition, that one of which should be the principal supply. Now in this case, accommodation service is the principal supply, and therefore this will definitely satisfy the conditions of composite supply, and therefore the applicable GST rate will be 18% on the entire amount of 8,000 rupees. I repeat, it will not be 12% on 7,000 rupees. The value, the GST rate will be 18% on the entire amount of 8,000 rupees. That is your 1,000 rupees towards your accommodation service, plus 7,000 rupees towards your accommodation service, plus 1,000 rupees towards your extra bed service. I hope I am clear up to here. If you have any doubts, we'll definitely take up the questions towards the end of the session. Now this takes me to the next issue, which is how to determine GST rate on late checkout or early check-in charges, which are charged separately to your guests. Now, please note that this issue will arise only if you are charging separately for the late checkout over and above your room rent. If you are giving complimentary late checkout option, then this issue does not arise at all. So treatment for chargeable late checkout facility will also be similar to the issue which we just discussed in relation to the extra bed, because your late checkout along with the accommodation service will also form a part of composite supply. Now, technically, the issue over here will arise when you say that a customer has already booked on a room online for rupees 7,000 rupees, on which 12% GST was collected and paid at the time of booking itself. Now, when the guest is actually staying, he decides to check out late, and for which he agrees to pay additional rupees 1,000 as late checkout charges to the hotel. Now, in such cases, the value of accommodation supply becomes rupees 8,000, being a composite supply, and therefore the applicable GST rate will be shifted to last slab, which is 18%. So even though at the time of booking GST was collected and paid at the rate of 12%, but at the time of checkout, when the invoice is generated, the applicable GST rate will be 18% and not 12%, because 7,000 towards your room rent plus 1,000 rupees towards your late checkout charges totals up to 8,000 rupees, crosses your 7,500 slab, goes in the last slab, which is taxable at the rate of 18%. Now the issue is, what about this differential 6%? Because you have already collected GST on 7,000 rupees at the rate of 12% at the time of booking. And now at the time of checkout, he is shifted to the last slab, which is 18%. So what about the differential 6%? Now with respect to the 6%, at the time of checkout, you either collect the differential amount from your customer if your booking terms and conditions are clear on this particular aspects, and if not, then this differential 6% will have to be borne by the hotel itself. This takes me to the next issue, where the issue is whether GST is payable at the time of advance booking or at the time of checkout of guest. What are the implications if the guest has just blocked the room, which is cancelable at the later date, and payment will be made by him at a later stage? So we'll divide our deliberation on this particular issue into two parts. Now, Mr. Gabawala had already explained with respect to the first part. Mr. Gabawala, in one of his sessions over last week, had already explained that GST is payable at the time of receipt of advance money for services. However, in cases, so with respect to the first part, whenever you receive the advance money, you are supposed to pay GST at the time of receipt of advance money. However, in cases where only room is blocked by the guest and payment will be made from his card only at a later stage as agreed at the time of booking, in such cases, GST will be payable only when the money is actually received by the hotel for the provision of services. So I'll repeat, because nowadays this concept is very peculiar. In Make My Trip and all, you have an option wherein you just block the room for the time being, and closer to your date of stay, the amount of your card will be debited with your booking amount closer to your date of stay. So in those particular cases, if a guest is just blocking the room without making the payment, GST will not be payable at that point in time. GST will be payable only when the hotel has received money for stay. Hope I was clear up to here. Let's jump to the next issue. What would be the GST implications on free concessional room nights which are given to directors, relatives of directors, and friends of directors? Now, this is also, I would request that someone is doing annotation on the slide. Please avoid making annotations on the screen. If you have any questions, we'll surely take them up towards the end of the session. The last question on this particular slide is, what would be the GST implications on free concessional room nights which are given to directors, relatives of directors, and friends of directors? Now we have section 15 of CGST Act 2017, which defines related parties. And then we have rule 28 of CGST Act, CGST rules 2017, which states that when a supply is made to a related party, the value of supply shall be the open market value. So for related parties, we have a specific rule for value of supply, and it says that it should be the value of open market value. Further, we have section 15.5 of CGST Act 2017, which defines related persons, and it includes directors and members of the family of directors. So this means that even if you have charged a concessional amount of say rupees 1200, or you have not charged anything to a director or a family members or their family members for deluxe category of room, and say the said room is sold for rupees 5000 to a guest on that particular day, then irrespective of the amount charged or not charged by the hotel to the director, the open market value of 5000 will be considered as the value of supply, and GST at the rate of 12% has to be paid on 5000 rupees for this particular transaction. I would like to repeat this. If you have not this means that even if you have charged, say, let's take an example, if you have charged a concessional amount of rupees 1200, or you have not charged anything to a director or their family members for deluxe category of room, and the said category of room is sold to some third person for say rupees 5000 on that particular day, then irrespective of the amount charged or not charged by the hotel to the director, the open market value of 5000 rupees will be considered as value of supply, and GST will have to be paid at the rate of 12% on this particular transaction. Therefore, for the directors and family members of the directors, Rule 28, that is the concept of open market value, will apply. However, with respect to the last part, that is friends of directors don't get covered within the definition of related person, and hence the concept of open market value will not apply for transactions which are done with friends of directors. So I repeat, for directors and relatives of directors, the concept of open market value, that is Rule 28, will apply, and for friends of directors, Rule 28 will not apply. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is, what would be the GST implications on a room which is given to manager in charge for stay in hotel during his night duty? Now, this is also very common in most of the hotels. A manager, there is always a manager who is there on night duty, because if there's any issue with respect to the front desk, if any guest has any complaints, then there should be some responsible person to answer the guests, and therefore there is always a manager who is there on night duty, and he's allotted a room wherein he can rest during his night stay. Now, as we had discussed in the previous question, section 15, the definition of related party also includes employees, your employees. Hence, as far as our view is that this particular transaction, it does not fit within the definition of supply. So prima facie our view is that there should not be any GST implications in this. However, if we show that the room is allotted to the manager, the issue of open market value can arise. I'm saying can arise, and GST can be demanded on the same, because we know how the assessing officers, how their interpretation skills are, and it can be very interesting at times when it comes to raising demand. So our advice will be, our prima facie, our view is that it does not amount to supply and there are no GST implications. However, our advice to you will be, you please mark those rooms as under maintenance, or rather show them as and don't show them as allotted to a manager. Just show that those particular rooms are being blocked without giving any reference as being occupied by the employees. So this will be our small advice to you. Hope I was clear up to here. The last issue with respect to the accommodation service is, GST payments should be on billing basis or night audit revenue booking basis. For example, guest checked in on 31st of January 2020 and checked out on 2nd of February 2020. How will these transactions be disclosed in GSTR 1 and 3B? Now, it goes without saying that your GST compliances has to be basis either your advance money receipts or your billings, which are done at the time of checkout of the guest. Night audit revenue booking is of no relevance when it comes to your GST compliances. So in this particular example, the entire transaction will be disclosed in GSTR 1 and 3B of February 2020. So these were some of the issues which were in relation to the accommodation service. Now this takes me to the next major service provided by this industry, which is the restaurant service. And as we all know, there has been series of amendments with respect to the rate for restaurant services as well. Let us quickly glance through the rate entry and the respective amendments before we deal with the issues. So when the GST came in, we had notification number 11 by 2017, central tax rate, which said that if a supply is provided by a restaurant, which is neither having an air condition or air heating facility, and which also neither has license to serve alcohol, the applicable GST rate will be 12% with full ITC. And then we had one more rate which said that if a restaurant is having either air conditioning facility or central air heating facility, or if they are having license to serve liquor, then applicable GST rate to them will be 18% with full ITC. Now everyone found that 12% and 18% is too high a GST rate, because this is entirely a consumer driven industry. Therefore a lot of representations were made, and on 14th of November 2017 we had a notification 46 by 2017 where they reduced the rates for restaurant service. And then we had two rates. We had two entries and we had two rates. First entry was to say that if a restaurant service is supplied by a hotel where they are having declared tariff above 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 18% with full ITC. And if supply is made by a standalone restaurant or by a hotel or from a hotel where the declared tariff is below 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 5% without ITC. Then we had one more amendment where they had inserted the explanation, and the explanation read as this items includes such supply at a canteen, mess, cafeteria or dining space of an institution such as school, college, hospital, industrial unit, office, by such institution or by any other person based on a contractual arrangement with such institution for such supply, provided that such supply is not event or occasional based. Now, when on 30th of September 2019, when they amended the rates of accommodation services to align the restaurant entries with the accommodation entries, they carried out certain amendments in the restaurant entries as well. And there we have two entries. First entry is to say that if a supply of restaurant service is from other than at specified premises, then the applicable GST rate will be 5% without ITC. And if the accommodations and if the restaurant service is from at the specified premises, then the applicable GST rate will be 18% with full ITC. Now, what do you mean by specified premises? And they have defined specified premises as well. Specified premises is defined to mean premises providing hotel accommodation services having declared tariff of any unit of accommodation above 7,500 rupees per unit per day or equivalent. So basically, technically they have not changed anything. They have just redrafted this entire entry. So for restaurant, we have two entries to say that if the restaurant is located outside hotel premises, or if the restaurant is in the hotel premises, but if the declared tariff of room is below 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 5% without ITC. And if the restaurant is being operated from the hotel premises, where the declared tariff of room is above rupees 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 18% with full ITC. So one point to note over here is that declared tariff is somewhere still hovering with us. It has not completely gone away. So now with this background, let us deal with some of the issues which are impacting the restaurant businesses. Now, before going to the issues, I would like to first run you all through the definition of a restaurant service. I will quickly read out the definition of restaurant service. Restaurant service, now this restaurant service is also defined in the notification itself, in the explanation to that particular notification. Restaurant service means supply by way of or is a part of any service of goods, being food or any other article for human consumption or any drink, provided by a restaurant, eating joint including mess, canteen, whether for consumption on or away from the premises, where such food or any other article for human consumption or drink is supplied. So this is the definition of restaurant service as defined in the notification itself. Let us discuss some of the issues which are impacting this particular service. And the first issue is, what would be the tax implications on the buffet sale at restaurant with alcoholic beverages and without alcoholic beverages? Now the concern over here is that the alcoholic liquor for human consumption is outside the purview of GST, and on sale of which VAT has to be paid. On alcohol we are paying VAT, everyone is aware about it. In the case of buffet without alcoholic liquor, there is no concern at all. Without alcoholic liquor, there is no concern at all. It's a vanilla case, and on the entire amount charged for buffet, GST has to be paid at the restaurant rate, 5% or 18%, depending on where your restaurant is located. So for buffet with non-alcoholic beverages, GST rate of restaurant service will apply on the entire amount of your buffet sale. With respect to fixed buffet charges for food with alcoholic liquor, we will have to artificially split the amount charged from customers into two components. First is your food component and second is your liquor component, basis the consumption pattern of liquor. Thereafter, on food component, GST has to be paid, and on the liquor component, VST has to be paid. Please note that the split in the amounts between food and liquor has to be in such proportion that the same can be justified to your respective authorities whenever they are being questioned. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is, what are the GST implications on supply of fruits inside the hotel room? Now, this was the live issue which we all saw a couple of months back for one of our renowned hotel chains. I would not like to name the hotel, but this was for one of the hotels in northern India, where a Bollywood celebrity had created a lot of noise for bananas being sold to him with 18% GST. There was a lot of noise in the media as well as social networking sites for this issue, wherein later on revenue authorities also intervened and slapped the hotel with penalties stating that fruits are tax-free products in GST, and hence they are wrong in charging 18% GST for fruits being served inside the hotel room. Now, in our view, this is not a correct interpretation, and the statement of department that fruits are tax-free products in GST is also absolutely absurd. Even though fruits are tax-free products, however, this is not a case where fruit is sold to a person on the road or at the market by a vegetable vendor. Let us try to find answer to this issue with the help of a legal backing. In this issue, let us assume that restaurant is located in the hotel premises where the hotel rooms are sold above rupees 7,500, and therefore the applicable GST rate for restaurant service will be 18% with ITC. Let us go for service as defined in the explanation of the rate notification and which we saw earlier. Now, this particular definition of restaurant service, I would like to break into three parts. First part is, restaurant service means supply by way of or as a part of any service of goods, being food or any other article for human consumption or any drink. So this is the first part of the definition. Second part of the definition is, provided by a restaurant, eating joint, including mess, canteen, mess or canteen. And the last part is, whether for consumption on or away from premises where such food or any other article for human consumption or drink is supplied. So now these are the three parts to the definition of restaurant service. Now, if all the above three conditions are satisfied, if all the three parts of the definitions are cumulatively satisfied, then the service which is being provided is the restaurant service. With respect to the first part, which is supply by way of or as a part of any service of goods, being food or any other article for human consumption or any drink, this condition is getting satisfied because fruits are nicely cut and served in a plate with cutlery inside the hotel room. Therefore, there is definitely an element of service involved in it, unlike for over-the-counter session. So this first condition with respect to issue is getting satisfied. Now the second condition is, provided by a restaurant, eating joint, etc. Now this condition is also getting satisfied because the fruits which is being served is being brought from the restaurant of the hotel, and the invoice is also raised from the restaurant only. Therefore, this condition is also appropriately getting satisfied. The third part of the definition, whether for consumption on or away from the premises. Now, this condition is wide enough to cover this particular scenario. Therefore, essentially, all the three limbs of this definition, as prescribed in the definition of restaurant service, are being satisfied in this particular case, and therefore GST has to be charged at the rate of 18% for this service. Further, to my mind, the hotel is not a fruit or a vegetable vendor to say fruits are tax-free. Fruits only when supplied as goods by fruit vendors as such without any processing is a tax-free product. However, the hotel is adding some element of service and convenience in this process. It is supplying restaurant service when it is serving fruits to its customer inside their rooms. Also, unlike a fruit vendor who supplies fruit as it is in its marketable condition to the customer, the hotel supplies fruits in a presentable and in a readily eatable manner. Therefore, we are saying fruits which are being served inside the room, it's a restaurant service and it's not a supply of fruits as such. Hope I could ably explain our interpretation to this particular issue. Let us quickly jump to the next issue. The issue is, what are the GST implications on a restaurant operated inside specified premises by a third party operator under his GSTIN and not the hotel's GST? I repeat, what are the GST implications on a restaurant operated inside the specified premises by a third party operator under his GSTIN and not hotel's GSTIN? Now, where a restaurant is operated by a third party operator inside the hotel with his GSTIN and not hotelier's GSTIN, the applicable GST rate will be 18% with ITC. Only because if we refer to the rate entry, it says restaurant service at specified premises. It nowhere specifies whether service by the hotel operator himself or by some other person. Therefore, if a restaurant is being operated from a specified premises, then the applicable GST rate, even for the third party operator, will be 18% with ITC. The location from where the restaurant service is provided is relevant to determine your taxability. The next issue is, what are the GST implications on standalone restaurant operated by a hotelier outside the specified premises under the same GSTIN? So now in this case, the restaurant is operated by a hotelier only, but outside the specified premises using the same GSTIN as of the hotel. Now here the restaurant is operated by the hotelier himself. However, the restaurant is located outside the premises. That is, it is a standalone restaurant. Now let us revisit the rate entry for restaurant service. It says supply of restaurant service at specified premises 18% and other than at specified premises at 5%. And specified premises is defined to mean a hotel where rooms are sold above 7,500 rupees. Now in this case, because the restaurant is situated outside the hotel premises, the applicable GST rate will be 5% without ITC. Also, we have an advance ruling in this case of Cutting Fusion Hospitality LLP by Maharashtra Advance Ruling Authority only, wherein the views held by them are in lines with the views which we just discussed for both this particular issues. This takes me to the next issue, and the next issue is, what are the GST implications on service charges which are collected on food supplies and alcohol supplies? Now we understand that in most of the cases, hoteliers raise separate invoices for food component and liquor component, or in the same invoice, these two components are disclosed separately. Now with respect to the service charge for food component, GST has to be paid, and with respect to the service charge for the alcohol component, VAT has to be paid. I repeat, service charges for food, GST has to be paid. Service charges for alcohol, VAT has to be paid. Next issue, what are the GST implications on supply of packed items like bottle of water, carbonated beverages, etc., which are being sold from a restaurant? Now let us try to analyze this particular issue also with the help of the definition of restaurant service. And as we discussed earlier, let us check if all the three conditions for fitting within the definition of restaurant service are satisfied or not. Now, as we all know that the first part of the definition is supply by way of or as a part of any service of goods being food or any other article for human consumption or any drink. This condition is getting satisfied because the outlet serves you the beverage in a glass. They pour the drink in a glass for you. Such kind of services you don't get at a retail shop. If you buy a bottle of Coke from a hyper city, they are not going to give you a straw or a tissue paper, which adds to the convenience to drink your Coke. Therefore, hence, there is definitely an element of service when a hotel is serving a bottle of Coke to their customers. Now, with respect to the second condition of the definition, which is provided by a restaurant or a eating joint. Now, this condition is also getting satisfied because the outlet from where the service is provided is a restaurant or a eating joint. And all the necessary licenses required to operate the eating outlet also proves that. So, second part of the definition of restaurant service is also getting satisfied. Third part of the definition, whether for consumption on or away from the premises. So as stated in the facts, it does not make any difference whether the customer is having the food items at the restaurant or outside the restaurant. The place of consumption will not really make any difference. Therefore, all the three conditions of the definition of restaurant service are getting satisfied, and therefore this is very much supply of restaurant service. This cannot be said to be supply of goods as such because there is definitely an element of service involved in the entire process. This takes me to the next issue. The issue is what will be the GST implications on supply of pastries, cakes from a refrigerators which are placed inside the restaurant. Now, I would believe that this is again a restaurant service, and the conditions of the definition of restaurant service, as we discussed for the above issues, will continue to apply here also. The intention is to supply the cakes and pastries for the customers who come to the restaurant. Unlike a cake shop where though a customer can have a pastry inside the store itself if he wishes, but the intention of a customer in case of retail shop is to generally consume the pastries outside the premises. Hence, in case of supply of pastries, cakes from a refrigerator placed inside the restaurant, it will be treated as a supply of restaurant service, and applicable GST at the rate of 5% or 18% as the case may be will be applicable. This takes me to the last issue of this particular slide. What will be the GST implications on over the counter sale of pastries, cakes, other bakery items from the cake shop inside the hotel? Now here we would believe that the intention is to sell the products over the counter, as it's a supply from a cake shop and not a restaurant. Hence, it will be treated as supply of goods, and GST rate as applicable to the respective product has to be charged. If you still have any doubts with respect to the taxability for these two scenarios, that is sale from a refrigerator inside the restaurant vis-a-vis supply from a cake shop which is outside the restaurant, then we can take up your questions during the Q&A session for this particular two issues. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is what are the tax implications on mocktail and cocktail sales? Now this is pretty simple. In the case of mocktails, there is no usage of alcohol in the preparation of drinks. Hence, GST under restaurant service will be payable on the same. For mocktails, pure GST because there is no usage of alcohol. However, in cocktail, there is an issue because alcohol in some proportion is used to make the drink. Though the proportion of alcohol is very less compared to the juices and other aerated beverages which are used in the preparation of drink, still it will be considered as an alcoholic drink which will be liable to VAT. Because even the intention of the customer is to have an alcoholic drink and not to have the juice. Therefore, on cocktails, VAT will be payable and not GST. I repeat, on mocktails, GST, on cocktails, VAT. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is what will be the GST implications on the excess cash collection received by the cashier at the restaurant? Now at times what happens is that a customer is billed say rupees 997 rupees for the restaurant service. Now because he is in hurry, he pays rupees 1000 and leaves back rupees 3000 with the cashier himself. Now please note, we are not talking of the tips which are given to the stewards. We are talking about the excess cash collection by the cashier. So the issue is whether the GST on restaurant service is to be paid on 997 rupees, which is the bill amount, or rupees 1000 rupees, which has been received by the cashier. There is one view to say that there is no supply to the tune of rupees 3000, which is collected in excess, and therefore no GST implications on the excess collection of 3 rupees. However, this appears to be a bit aggressive and it can be litigative. Therefore, if you want to play conservative, then it is advisable to discharge GST on the excess collection of 3 rupees also. But our prima facie view is that GST will be payable only on 997 rupees. There is no supply vis-a-vis the excess collection of 3 rupees. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is meals are provided to staff at subsidized rates, which is recovered from his salary. What will be the GST implications? Will the answer change if meals are provided to employees free of cost? This is also a very commonplace transaction wherein all hotels and in restaurants you have a canteen where staff is given food, lunch is provided to staff at a subsidized rate. Now, as you must be aware that there is an advance ruling which is passed by the Kerala GST Advance Ruling Authority in the case of Caltech Polymers. I repeat, Caltech Polymers, Karnataka Advance Ruling Authority. It's on canteen supplies, which stated that canteen recovery from employees is subject matter of GST. Though the said advance ruling is not final and cannot be held to be binding on other SSCs as well, our interpretation and advisory for recovery of staff meal is that it is not a supply and GST is not payable on staff meal recovery. Let us take an example, say where the cost to an employer for staff meal is rupees 100 per plate, and the employer recovers rupees 30 per plate from the employee and bears the balance cost of 70 rupees. Now the issue is whether GST is payable on the recovery of 30 rupees which is made by the employer from his employee. Now our advice is GST is not payable on this activity as it is not a supply itself on account of the following reasons. And the first reason is it is not in the course of furtherance of business. This particular transaction is not in the course or furtherance of business. Second, the provision of food is a part of the employment contract. In the employment contract, the employer had committed that you will be provided lunch at a subsidized rate. And third, the same accounts to mere extension of employment benefits. So providing meals to your employees at subsidized cost is nothing but an extension of your employment benefits. These arguments are very strong and should sail through at higher forums. However, we would like to warn you about the reasonable certainty of notice being issued by the department on this particular issue, because we already have an advance ruling for this particular issue. So this might go into litigation, but we are pretty sure that GST, our interpretation is quite strong that it is not a supply and therefore GST is not payable on employee staff meal recoveries. Now the last issue with respect to the restaurant services, flat discount of 30% is given to employees of the company for availing restaurant service at its properties. What are the value of supply implications? Now in many companies, they have a policy where if an employee flashes his ID card in the restaurant of the employer, then some discount is offered to him. Say employee is billed for rupees 100 on which GST of rupees 5, say an employee takes something and is billed rupees 100. Now he is entitled for 30% discount on his bill amount. What should be the value on which GST is to be calculated? On 100 rupees or 70 rupees, which is after giving 30 rupees of discount. Now, as discussed during our accommodation service section, employees get covered in the definition of related party, and hence the valuation for GST purposes has to be on the basis of open market value. However, we would believe that the employees is a separate class of people in itself, And unlike the director's case, which we discussed in the accommodation section, employees do not have any decision-making authority. Also, if you refer to section 15.5 of CGST Act 2017, it does not include section 15.3, which talks about the discounts within its ambit. Therefore, employees being a separate class of people in itself, and because of provisions of section 15.3 of CGST Act 2017, GST has to be calculated on the discounted amount of rupees 70 and not rupees 100. Hope I could explain our views for this issue. If you have any concerns, then we can take up your questions towards the end. This takes me to the third and the major service category of this particular industry, which is banquet service and outdoor catering service. Now, there has been a couple of amendments in rate notification of these services. Initially, we had 18% for both outdoor catering and banqueting services. Then on 30th of September 2019, the rates has been reduced to 5%. So if a outdoor catering or a banquet service is provided from a standalone location, that is from outside the hotel premises or from a hotel where the declared tariff of rooms is below 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 5% with ITC. And if it is provided from a hotel premises where the declared tariff of room is above 7,500 rupees, then the applicable GST rate will be 18% with ITC. This takes me to the first issue with respect to the banquet and outdoor catering service. And the issue is an SSE is into operating hotel in specified premises and is also operating a standalone restaurant. He is also providing outdoor catering services from the standalone restaurant. What are the GST implications post amendment? Please note, the outdoor catering service is provided from the standalone restaurant and not from the hotel premises. This is simple. And as we also in the rate entries, because the outdoor catering is provided from a standalone restaurant which is outside the specified premises, the applicable GST rate will be 5% without ITC. Now the next issue is, what will be the GST implications on valet charges, DJ charges, corkage charges, etc., which are charged separately on the invoice and form part of per pax for the banqueting service. I would believe that even though these charges are collected separately, still it will form part of the banqueting service only, being a composite supply where the principal supply is banquet service. So valet charges, DJ charges, corkage charges, it's a composite supply with banquet service, and your banquet service GST rate will apply. This takes me to the last issue on this particular slide, which is what will be the GST implications on recovery of government license charges from banquet customers. Please note, the question is with respect to the recovery from the customers of government payments and not the expense which is incurred by an SSE. With respect to the expense side, we will deal with it separately under the RCM section. The answer would be same as the above issue. It will form part of banqueting service only, being a composite supply where the principal supply is banquet service. Therefore, GST rate of banquet service will apply on these recoveries also. This takes me to certain issues which are related to the ancillary services which are provided by this particular industry. And the first issue is, what will be the applicable GST rate on rent-a-cab service provided by a hotel to its guest? Further, will it be eligible to claim ITC of GST charged by a rent-a-cab vendor on the service availed by the hotel for providing to its guest? Well, that is for back-to-back transactions. Now, with respect to the first part of the issue, the hotel has two options with respect to the GST rate. First option is they either pay 5%, where they will not be entitled to claim any ITC. The second option is they pay 12%, where they will be entitled to claim ITC on all their inward supplies. Now, with respect to the second part of the question, hotel can claim ITC on back-to-back transaction, even if it opts to pay GST on outward supplies at 5%. So even if you opt to pay 5% GST on your outward supplies, still you can claim ITC of GST which is charged by your vendor for back-to-back transaction. Now please note, if 5% rate is adopted, then ITC can be claimed only for back-to-back rent-a-cab supply transactions and not for all the expenses which are pertaining to rent-a-cab services. This takes me to the next issue, where the issue is What will be the GST rate on club membership service provided by a hotel? Say if an amount of rupees 10 lakhs is charged for a family membership which is valid for a period of 10 years. Now in this case, GST at the rate of 18% under club membership service will be payable on this particular service at the time of receipt of money. Even though the income is booked on in books of accounts is booked on accrual basis over the period of 10 years, but GST on the entire amount of 10 lakhs has to be discharged at the time of receipt of money only. The next issue is, what are the GST implications on in-room dining service which is provided by a hotel? I would believe that in-room dining is nothing but an extension of restaurant service. It cannot be linked with accommodation service, nor can be said to be a composite supply where principal supplies accommodation service, as contract for both the services are entered into at different point in time. When the guest had booked the hotel room, neither the guest nor the hotel knew whether the guest would avail this facility of in-room dining service or not. Now, this is also a legacy issue, and in service tax regime, we are already facing litigation for this service, where department is of the view that IRD is an extension of accommodation service because only those guests who are staying in hotel room can avail this service. A walk-in guest to the hotel who is not staying in hotel cannot avail the in-room dining service. This is the allegation which is made by the department. And we believe that in-room dining is purely an extension of restaurant service. The food is prepared in the same kitchen from where it is being served inside the restaurant or even for parcel takeaways. Also, the menu card which is placed inside the room from where you can place order for food also mentions the name of the same restaurants. Further, if we take this argument that this is an accommodation service because only guests staying with the hotel can avail this service, then for other services like internet, Wi-Fi, laundry, etc., which are also exclusively available to guests staying with the hotel, they should also be clubbed with accommodation service, right? However, that is not how we do. For Wi-Fi and laundry, we are saying it's a separate service. Therefore, in our view, IRD is nothing but an extension of restaurant service, and therefore GST rate at the rate of 5% or 18% at the case maybe will be applicable. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is, what are the GST implications on minibar facility provided by a hotel? This is also a very commonplace transaction wherein in a hotel a refrigerator is placed and various products like chocolates, aerated beverages, alcohol, etc. is placed for sale. At times, even packets of dry snacks are placed in the room. Now, these items are chargeable extra. They are payable and are to be paid at the time of checkout from the hotel. These items are over and above the complimentary items which are placed in the room. So now the issue to analyze over here is whether this is supply of service or supply of goods. Now, in our view, minibar is purely supply of goods as there is no element of service involved in it. The items are brought and placed as it is inside the room for sale. There is no processing or service of any sort on these items. This can neither be said to be composite supply nor mixed supply with accommodation service as the contracts for both the services have been entered into at separate point in time, and it is completely upon guest's wish whether he wants to use these products or not. Therefore, this is purely supply of goods, and GST as well as cess for goods will be applicable if aerated beverages are supplied, and VAT will be applicable if alcohol is supplied from your minibar. So minibar is supply of goods and not supply of services, and GST rate and cess will be applicable as per the product's rate. Also on alcohol, VAT has to be paid. The next issue is, what are the GST implications on packet of cigarettes sold by a restaurant, hotel? Now the answer will be same as minibar. There is no element of service in the packet of cigarettes which are being sold to the customers. This will be considered as sale of goods, and applicable GST rate as well as cess as per the calculations of cigarette has to be paid on the same. Therefore, for cigarettes also it is supply of goods and not supply of services. Now the next issue is, a hotel has organized New Year's party where food, liquor and entry to the party will be given to the guest for a fixed charge of rupees 5,000 per person. What are the tax implications? Now, this is also a very commonplace transaction where the party is hosted by a hotel, which includes your food, liquor, music, and access to the entertainment event. In our view, this is a composite supply of service where principal supply is access to the entertainment event. The intention of the guest is to attend the party and not purely to eat food as such. If he just wanted to enjoy the food and have liquor, then he would have visited any of the restaurants, right? But here, clearly, the intention of the guest as well as the hotel is to give access to the entertainment event. Now, we have a separate rate entry for services by way of an access to an entertainment event. Therefore, GST will be charged at a higher rate of 28% because we have a separate rate entry for access to an entertainment event, and that is chargeable at the rate of 28%. Now, one more issue which will arise over here is that there is a consumption of alcohol also happening in the party, and alcohol being outside the purview of GST, VAT is to be levied on the same. Here in this case, since lump sum amount of 6,000 rupees is collected from each guest, there is no breakup of liquor component which is readily available. Therefore, in our view, this amount of 6,000 should be artificially divided into two components. That is towards access to an entertainment event on which GST at the rate of 28% should be paid, and towards liquor component basis consumption pattern and on which VAT should be paid. This takes me to the last issue with respect to the outward supplies, and then we will move to the next topic, which is input tax credit. The last issue is what are the GST implications on recovery of damages, breakages from guest. Say for example, a guest accidentally broke TV in the room and is ready to pay and is ready to pay cost for the loss caused to the hotel. Now, in our view, there will not be any GST implications on the same as there is no supply. This is merely recovery of damages or loss caused to the hotel, which cannot be treated as a consideration. Neither there is any sort of toleration of act in this entire transaction. Hence, no GST implications on the recovery of damages made by the hotel from its guests, as it does not fit in the definition of supply itself. These were some of the issues with respect to the outward supplies provided by the hospitality industry. Let us quickly move to the next topic, which is input tax credit. Now, I think I'll try to wrap up my presentation within next 5 minutes, and then we'll go to question and answers. I'm sorry for taking up a lot of time. Let us quickly move to the next topic, which is ITC. And the first issue is ITC eligibility for standalone restaurants. This is a vanilla case. ITC will not be eligible to standalone restaurants because they are paying outward tax at 5%. ITC eligibility for restaurant supplies at specified premises. Now, at specified premises, it means that the declared tariff is above 7,500 rupees, and therefore they are supposed to pay 18% GST. Therefore, they will be eligible to claim ITC also. Third issue, ITC eligibility for restaurant supplies at specified premises, but having sale of alcoholic liquor. And as we all know that alcohol is outside the purview of GST on which VAT is payable. Therefore, if in the restaurant which is located in the specified premises and where alcohol is also served, the applicable GST rate will be 18% on the food supplies. But ITC will be available only in certain proportion because you have alcohol sale, and that proportion will be determined as per the provisions of Rule 42 and 43 of CGST Rules 2018. Fourth issue, ITC reversal requirement for capital goods for shift from 18% with ITC to 5%. So the issue is that when you are in 18% with ITC, you had claim ITC on capital goods. Now you are moving to 5% without ITC. So then when you move to 5% without ITC, you are required to proportionately reverse the ITC on capital goods, which you had claimed fully at the time of purchase. The next issue is, this is the most important issue, the ITC eligibility for renovation works and repairs and maintenance work undertaken by a hotel. So as had explained by Mr. Gabawala in his ITC session last week, if renovation work is resulting into creation of an immovable property and is capitalized in books of accounts, then as per section 17.5 of CGST Act 2017, ITC will not be available. Both the condition needs to be checked. Creation of immovable property and capitalization. With respect to the repairs and maintenance, because it is generally debited to the P&L account, ITC can be claimed. However, please note, that if the repairs work is for the restaurant area in the specified premises, and if you are serving alcohol, then ITC will be available proportionately as per Rule 42. But if the repairs work is for rooms, etc., then ITC can be claimed fully. This takes me to the RCM side of it, and the first issue is RCM applicability under import of service for commission, which is paid to the online travel agents like Agoda, etc., which are based outside India and does not have any permanent establishment in India. Now, this is also a very commonplace transaction, and we have websites like Agoda who are operating from outside India, and they do not have any permanent establishment in India. In such cases, we have section 13(8)(b). I repeat, section 13, subsection 8, clause B of the IGST Act 2017, which states that the place of supply in case of intermediary service shall be the location of the intermediary. Further, the definition of intermediary includes agents, I'm sorry, I'll repeat once again. We have section 13, subsection 8, clause B, which says that the place of supply in case of intermediary service shall be the location of intermediary. Further, they have also defined intermediary to include agents who facilitates the provision of service. Now, online portals squarely get covered in the definition of intermediary, and hence the place of supply shall be the location of intermediary, which in this example is outside India. Therefore, no GST under RCM on commission which is paid to the online travel portals who are based outside India and who do not have any PE in India. If the OTA is based in India, like Make My Trip and all, who are based in India, then there is no question of RCM, because he will be charging GST on the commission which he will be collecting from the hotels. This takes me to the next issue, and the issue is a hotel avails a service of rent-a-cab service from a vendor who is not a body corporate and does not charge GST. The service is availed for further providing it to the guests. What will be the RCM implications? In this case, because the vendor is not registered, hotel will have to pay GST under RCM and will be entitled to claim ITC of the same. The next issue is RCM requirement for liquor license fees paid to the state government. Now, we already have a circular in circular number 121/40 of 2019, dated 11th of October 2019. I repeat, 121/40 of 2019, dated 11th October 2019, where the CBIC has given reference to the council meetings and has clarified that liquor license fees are exempted services, and therefore GST under RCM will not be payable on liquor licenses. This takes me to the last issue, and the issue is GST on other government payments for various licenses. Now, GST under RCM will be payable on payments which are made to government, but this would be subject to certain exceptions and exemptions as granted, like liquor license fees, which we just discussed above. Then we have certain exemptions like FSSAI license, small value exemptions, which are up to 5,000 rupees. So, barring these exemptions, GST under RCM will be payable on all the payments made to the government for obtaining licenses. This brings an end to my presentation. I have overshoot my time. I apologize for that, but the idea was to cover all the nuances of the hospitality industry, and therefore I thought that we should have covered all these particular issues. Now, if you have any questions, then we can take them up one by one. So the first issue we have from Sudhir, it says that if director employee visited to foreign country for business purpose, what treatment should we give to GST? I mean, what should we do? Expense under exempt or not show in GST portal? Sir, this is not a GST transaction at all. And I assume that you're talking about accommodation service which is obtained by the director or employee for a hotel outside India. So this will not fit in the GST provisions itself. Therefore, you don't require to make any disclosure in your GST compliances. The next issue is, if a company has GST number in Maharashtra and Delhi, when employee of Delhi visited in Maharashtra for business or company meeting, should we give GST number of Maharashtra and to get benefit of input is correct and need to expense show under Maharashtra? No. So if you are giving a GST number of Delhi, then expense has to be claimed in Delhi. If you are giving GST number of Maharashtra, then you have to claim that particular expense in Maharashtra. Next issue. In case of club membership of 5-star hotels, bills, can we take input of bill in GST? Although detail not mentioned on bill of membership. So club memberships, the ITC is specifically restricted in section 17.5, and therefore you cannot claim any ITC with respect to the club memberships. Next issue, GST on GTA under RCM, will there ITC credit available? Yes, I have covered this particular issue. You can claim ITC of this GST which is charged by our vendor. Next issue, license fee plus margin charge to the vendor, whether GST will be applicable? Yes, GST will be applicable on the same. It will be considered as a part of the principal supply, and depending whatever is your principal supply, you will have to discharge GST accordingly. Next, rent a cab raised invoice without GST as he is not registered, and then will it fall under RCM? Yes, because he is not registered, you will have to pay GST under RCM. I think these were some of the issues. Thank you so much everyone for your participation and patient hearing. Let us pray to God that we all come out of this real soon and much stronger like never before. Tomorrow we are going to discuss entertainment sector, and my partner Parth, who has an expertise in this industry, is going to take up the session. See you all tomorrow. Thank you once again. This is Yash Parmar signing off.